Hi, this is David, and we're going to continue where we left off. Yesterday, on the last video, we were talking about the completion of our 100 hand range that we constructed, and we constructed it basically based on the probable bet size and perhaps frequency and range of an aggressive three better who may be coming after us. And we based it mainly on the size bet that we expected. We opened for 20, and we assumed that he'll make a three bet of about, 3x. He'll raise us to about 60. Now, when he does this, he lays 2.22 to 1, meaning that he breaks even on his bluff. He's betting 60 to win 27 if he can generate 69% folds. So we want to continue more frequently than this. We decided that we're going to continue at least a third of the time. And since our premium hands made up about 34 combinations total, here's our 100 hand range. We're talking about aces, kings, queens, ace, king suited, ace, king offsuit. These make up about 34 hands, and those are supposed to make up 1/3 of our total range. We decided to come up with a 100 hand range, okay? And this way we know that he can't exploit us by coming in, betting with junk, and trying to steal. It's okay for us to fold. We can fold 2/3 of the time and let him steal our $20. It doesn't matter, because 1/3 of the time he's going to run into the top of our range, okay, and we'll get his $60. Okay. Now, we wanted to have a polarized range of strong hands and weaker hands, so that we would always have a very easy decision if he started betting big at us. When we had our very strong hands, we would continue, and when we had very weak hands, we would just fold. But we also had to protect against the possibility that he makes a mini raise, that he doesn't come in with a standard raise. If he raises to, for instance, makes a min raise to $35, okay, now he's only laying about 1.3 to 1, and his break-even threshold is about 56%, which means that we're going to have to continue with about 45% of our range. So what we did there is, out of our second tier hands, we kept a few of the stronger ones, like ace queen, ace jack suited, and one of our combinations of pocket jacks. And that handled the situation in case he makes a min raise. Against standard size raises, you can just call with pocket queens or better, or ace king. And if he comes in with one of these min raises, we can continue with a few lesser hands that can still afford to call against a smaller three bet. Now, a question comes up, even though it's sort of a theoretical question. In live games where you have crazy plays, you'll sometimes see somebody make an enormous bet. Suppose we come in for 20, and this guy pushes in $1,000, pushes in $500 or something like that. And we don't know what to do now. Suddenly what we thought our premium hands were, they shrunk up. Okay, pocket queens and ace king offsuit don't look so hot anymore. Okay, and what are we going to do when he comes in with this enormous bet? Do we have to call? Can we fold? Should we call? Anyway, when faced with an enormous bet, and this can apply both pre-flop and post-flop, there's really a question that you need to ask yourself. And this is basically the question. Okay, he is making a very large bet and representing the nuts or something close to it. So the question is, why am I thinking about calling with less than the nuts? Okay, and there are two possible answers. And it's possible that you may not even consider either one of these questions. Okay, consider that question. You may just think, I feel like gambling, or I have a hunch that I'm best. And those are not really what you should be asking yourself. You should really be asking yourself whether you're trying to exploit him or whether you're trying to keep from being exploited, because that determines whether you want to play optimally or exploitatively. Okay? Number one is an example of someone playing exploitatively. Why is he calling? Is it because I'm trying to exploit him? Am I trying to pick off bluffs to make money because I think he bluffs more than the optimal frequency? Okay? If your answer to this question is yes, then you should probably call with aces, kings, and queens. Okay? And maybe even if he jacks, if you have him, if you truly think he is bluffing more than the optimal frequency. But suppose you are not really trying to exploit him. You think he's a good player, he mixes up his play well, and this has you totally confused when he makes this great big giant bet. Or he may be a maniac, but an intelligent maniac. You just don't really know him. You have to ask yourself, am I calling because I am worried about him exploiting me? Am I worried that he thinks he can push me around with big bets? Do I need to call here to prevent him from having a profitable bluffing strategy against me? Okay? Now, very often this is your answer right here. And this is the reason you're calling, because you're worried that he's going to be coming with big bets. He thinks that you're a folder, he can push you around, and you need to stop this. But do you need to stop it against this size bet? How often do you need to? Okay? So once you decide which reason you're thinking about calling him, then you have a better idea in how to pursue your strategy. Okay? We're going to assume right now that we're worried about him exploiting us. We're worried about the metagame ramifications of folding to his big bets. Can he just take any two cards anytime he feels like it and shove in a big bet and cause us to fold? Well, here's how we answer that question. Okay, we have the blinds are posted. We have our 100 hand range here. Okay, we raised to $20. This guy comes along and he raises it up to $300. Okay, now if we're worried about being exploited, we just look at this the same way we always look at the defensive side of an optimal strategy. We look and see what price he is getting and what his break-even threshold is. Okay, here he's betting $300 to win $27. He's laying more than 11 to 1. He needs us to fold 92% of the time in order for this to be a profitable bluff. Okay, this is a lot of folds. Okay, now what it means on our part is that if we are simply trying to prevent being exploited, we don't have to call with ace-king suited. We don't have to call with pocket queens. We only need to call with the top 8% of our range. If we call with the top 8% of our range, he can't make money on this because he's not going to be taking down this little pot frequently enough to break even. Okay, now if you know how big your range is, and in this particular one I chose a 100 hand range because we can answer questions like this very quickly. If you have a 150 hand range, if you have a 200 hand range, as long as you know how big your range is, what the hands are in it, you can rank them in your head very quickly and you can answer questions like this. In this particular case, we need to call with the top 8% of our range. Here's our 100 hand range, and we see that the top 6 combinations are pocket aces. Pocket aces account for 6% of our range. Now, when he makes this big bet to $300, if we only called with pocket aces and folded everything else, he would make money because we would only be calling 6% of the time. Okay? That means that he's winning 94% of the time. 94% of the time we're folding, and he only needs us to fold 92% of the time. What we would have to do is we would have to call with our aces all the time, and then we would have to call with the kings about 1 out of 3 times. Or we could flip a coin and we could call half the time with our pocket kings. If we called half the times with our pocket kings, we would be calling with 3 of these 6 combinations. We'd be calling with the pocket aces. So we'd be calling 9% of the time, more frequently, and he would only be winning 91% of the time. We would be doing this sufficiently. Now suppose he raised this to $500. Okay, if he raises it to $500, he's laying over 18 to 1. He needs us to fold 95% of the time. So if he makes a bet this large, now all we have to do is call with our pocket aces, and that alone will be sufficient to keep him from profiting. Well, that's all for now, and we'll continue next time.